Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about the state of the offensive line, the impact that Jayden Daniels can make on this group. Listen, they gave up 65 sacks last year, but it's a different line, it's a different quarterback, and it's a different coaching staff with different ideas on how to call plays and the scheme to run. How that all can help protect Jayden Daniels much better than what they did last year with Sam Howell. And again, that was a whole mess of errors. It was Howell holding the ball. It was a constant complaint that you'd hear, or not complaint, but a constant concern and coaching point for coaches all season. And there were times he got better, and then times he still held the ball a little bit long. And then it was an offensive line that would give up some pressures, but it was also a coach who kept calling pass play after pass play after pass play, even when the game was always close in the first half. That didn't help that group either. So it's one thing after then. It's also about how does the run game marry the pass game, the play action. That's something that this group, I think, they think will do, that they feel pretty good about that and how it can help the play action, et cetera. Now you got to go out and do it. Anyway, that story's up now on ESPN.com. So, all right, got the second preseason game Saturday night. That's what I want to talk about. Spend a few minutes here talking about what I want to see and things that maybe you can look for as well in this game. And it starts, of course, with Jayden Daniels. Now, I'm going to get into other positions, receiver, safety, and some other spots as well. We got to start with Daniels because his growth is so crucial to what's going on here. He's coming off a few good weeks. Now, I keep telling you, and I know Dan Quinn and others have said about the value of these joint practices. There's still a lot to be gained from the games. And last week we saw Daniels work against a different group, get presented with a different look, check to a play, make a beautiful throw, and convert a big play. So you see those things in these games. And you can see some of that stuff in a joint practice, of course, and I like those because they're very specific and the coaches can arrange what they want so they can see what they want from a particular guy or matchup. There's tons of value in that, but you still can find stuff in these games. And for Daniels, it's that. So how does he grow off that? Now, he had a really good practice on Thursday, and I wasn't there, but in talking to people there, both yesterday or after the practice and then again today, there are definitely things that continue to stand out with Daniels. And that's what I want to see. Does this continue each game, each practice, et cetera? Because then really what it becomes is kind of who he is. And the two of the things that I've heard consistently through camp, and this was something that people talked about when would talk to them about Daniels' game, is the ball placement and the accuracy. Now, we know he's got poise. And there were times apparently in those red zone drills that felt like the poise was really good. But there's also ball placement accuracy, knowing where to go. So he consistently puts it where his guy gets it or nobody gets it. And that's really, really good. And it's very advanced for a guy at his stage. And I'll get into that more of that probably next week. But that's does that continue? I don't know why it wouldn't, but does it, how does he do? And is there a chance that we may see him more under pressure at times? I wouldn't mind seeing him under pressure to see how he reacts, not to get sacked. You don't want him to get sacked, but how do you handle the pressure when the read you think is going to be there isn't there, and you look to your second or third? How do you handle that pocket closing in? Because that's playing in the NFL, and nobody wants to see him get hurt. You don't want to see him get hit, but you would like to see pocket collapsing. What do you do? And we know the special talent that he has that can help you in a game, right? But those are some of the things. And then just the mechanics of the position. The Dolphins can do some different things defensively. Do they give him some different looks? How do you handle those? Those are all the things. Now, he's only going to play probably, honestly, no more. I'm going to guess no more than 2 series. I think it's going to be a lot like last week. If you have a good first series, may pull him after that. If you have a 3 and out, maybe you give him another series just to get a few more reps and a chance to get a little bit of a rhythm going. Because let's be real, man, I don't know that he's going to play much in that third game at all, if at all, because by that point, I would kind of think they name him the starter. And why would you put him in that third game, especially after a joint game? It's almost like 4 game situations for him. So I don't know that they do that. So this could be the last chance for him. So you probably want to give him a couple series and then get him out because you don't want to go beyond that. But there's still a lot to learn with him with that, right? And how he handles each thing, because there's going to be different looks. Like, I know some people wondering, is the hype real? I mean, I don't know it's hype. It's just people saying what they see. It's not, I don't know anybody's going to come out like, maybe some are saying he's the greatest ever. I don't think there's that, but you can't help say what you see and hear. And it's the same thing when in the past, there were quarterbacks here where you'd hear some stuff that wasn't as glowing. And it's like, I can't help what I see and what I hear. And it's the same case here. You can't help what you see, which is very good, and which is what you hear, which is even better, because the way he is as a teammate and all that is really, really good. And I think that's one of the things that I think separates him from some others that have played this position here in the past. It's just the gravitational pull of his personality is really good. And I know, and it's natural. So I'm going to get into some more of that, like when whenever they name him the starter, whenever that is, I'm going to guess early next week, but that's a guess. I don't know. Anyways, so there's more to see from him. And it goes back to, again, those qualities I talked about. And it's funny because I know a lot of the Dolphins reporters were pretty high on him after watching him. So, again, all you can go is by what you see. And so far, it's been really good. There's no guarantee for the regular season. It's just that to this date, August 16th, as I'm recording this, it's been very good for Jayden Daniels. Step by step, folks. So anyways, let's go on to some other positions, starting with receiver, because that's where, listen, we know what Dan Quinn said about the number 2 receiver, that he's still looking for that guy to separate. And I think he should be continue to look for that guy to separate, because nobody has. And that goes back to Jahan Dotson. You start with him because he hasn't emerged. And I think it's funny because I know one of the things they want to see from that position is a couple of things. Urgency. One of the things when you watch Jahan, he's not a guy that comes across with that level of urgency. That's not to say he's not trying. It's not to say he doesn't care. That's not it at all. But some guys, maybe, they don't play with that same level. And I think I think he needs to impress this group more. I'm not saying that he's in danger of being cut, but I do think he's in danger of not being that number 2 guy for sure, because Dan Quinn said this, right? Said that they're still looking for that guy. That means he hasn't done enough. This is not their guy. They did not draft him. They're not beholden to him. And I think I would say this, by this point, I think Jahan Dotson is well aware that he's got to show, has to show more for sure. And it's not that he's not talented either. And then, some of that it's yards after the catch. Well, I think some of that comes down to Jayden Daniels. And one guy that I'm curious to see in this game is Luke McCaffrey because of that. So there was a play in practice, I think I talked about this a couple of days ago, where Jayden looks to the left, works back to the right, gets it over the middle to McCaffrey, good route, quick turn and upfield and get upfield. That's what he offers you. Now, he's a physical, but also on that play, the reason why he had that room is because of the progression that Daniels did it at, right? You 1 hitch here, 2 here, 3 here, boom, right? And if you do that, you work within the rhythm, that guy should have a chance to turn and go. And that's what he did with McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey is going to get a lot more look this game and a lot more opportunities to do things. I think they're going to put some guys in position to see really what can they do. And that's so route running. They obviously want to see route running, contested catches, beating man coverage, anything you have on your receiver check box or whatever, box to check. That's what they want to see because nobody is separated there. So, all these guys, I think, Jahan can make contested catches. We saw that in college. McLaurin, that's what he excels at. Dammy Brown has done that in camp a few times. I think Zacchaeus has really had a good camp. And you've heard that. He also has returned punts pretty well, or at least run with it pretty well. Again, I told you, you got to work a little bit more on the secure end of it, because I think it was a little bit, I'm just curious to see how he handles, assuming they put him back for punt returns, how he handles those. But he's had a good camp. And the other thing to keep in mind is there may not be one guy that opens up in that number 2 role. It may be one game it's this guy because you have this package in to start, or you're featuring this package today. So maybe it's Dammy Brown, maybe it's Zacchaeus, maybe it's Jahan Dotson, whomever. But I think, that's what so you could use a combo of guys to kind of fill out that one role, which tells you they don't have that guy. But maybe I think one thing this staff seems to really talk about a lot is, and ideally any coaching staff does this, They all don't, because I've seen it. But like, what does this guy do? What can this guy do that maybe can help this offense? So Jahan Dotson has skills that can help. McCaffrey has skills that can help. Zacchaeus has skills that can help. De'Ami Brown has things that he can do. And so you're going to take that and just kind of mix and match. Greg Williams was really good at doing that on defense more than a few years ago. So that's a good philosophy. Let's see how it plays out. But I do think they're very big on finding out what a guy can do and not what he can't do, and then dismissing him. So, right. So I think that receiver thing could come down to a combination of guys doing different things. And, that's what it is. And when you look at Dotson too, because as I told you, getting off the line is a big thing. That's something they're definitely looking at as well. And so if that's the case, it's not a strength of his, but you can use him in stacks and bunches, motion, whatever, play him in the slot, get him off the line so they can't get their hands, and he can use his feet more to beat a guy. And it's funny because if they see him just as a slot now, when they drafted him, I remember talking to a few highly respected coaches about what they thought of that pick, because at the time, I told you that he was one of the 4 receivers they really liked. And so when they made that trade back, I thought he was the target. And I know Hamilton was on the list too. But anyway, and you can go back and do whatever you want with that. But at the time, he was a guy. So, most projections had him in the 20s or so, maybe a little bit lower. But I did ask a couple of guys like, yeah, we liked him, but we thought he was only a slot, and that was too high to take a guy that we thought was just a slot. So maybe that's what he ultimately is. And I think he could be a good one if that's the case. But what can he do here? Can he be that consistent number 2? Maybe not, but can he play a role? I do think he can. So, but he definitely has to play with some more urgency to accomplish that. The other one is like Kaz Allen. What does he do? So he has definite skills too that you can tap into. Now you can line him up in the backfield at times and run some stuff with him out there. I think he'd be dangerous out of that. But the key for him is going to have to be the return game, because I don't think he's going to make it as just a receiver. Guy like that's going to have to help on the return game. So I don't think with punt returns that they really are going to trust him back there, but I can see kickoff returns, because that was a guy that Quinn mentioned. I think he'll get a chance there. How does he field the ball, et cetera? But I think his skill running in the open field would do well in that. I think, so I that's a spot to watch for him. Martavis Bryant would expect him to play. I don't know how much, but it sounds like he will play. And what does he offer? I think he's still a guy that you can look at and say, you get through these next couple of weeks, keep him around in the practice squad, depending on what he does on Saturday, and then in the preseason finale, what does he show? I don't think he's going to show enough for another team to pick him up if they cut him. He's been out there, teams know it. But I do think he's a guy that you could probably keep around, because you do have a hole there. You have a definite hole. And as a separate aside, I know Brandon Ayuk, they don't want to pay, I think to sign him is going to cost more than 30. I do not think they're comfortable with that. Keep in mind, the Niners aren't comfortable with that. Adam Peters came from the Niners. This is not about not liking the guy personally. It's a cost-effective maneuver here, right? So just as an aside, I know that he's available, but I think in the offseason, you're going to want to target that for sure, and bring a guy here to pair along with McLaurin to give Jayden Daniels a lot more opportunities to make big plays. So, but can you cobble it together with this group? Well, that's what they're going to have to do. So it's kind of like a pitching staff, maybe a bullpen by committee day or whatever. So, not ideal, but you take what you have, you make the most of it. And I think that's what they're going to do. And there are things that each guy can do. So it's not like they can't do anything. Again, Zacchaeus had a really good camp. See how this continues. So now let's turn to the defensive backs. I think that to me is one of the most interesting on the team. And what are they going to do there? Because are they going to keep 5 or are they going to keep 6? Remember, final cuts are a week from Tuesday. So what are they going to do with them if, let's say they only keep 5? Well, you have Quan Martin, he's on. Jeremy Chin, he's on. Then you have Percy Butler, who had a nice camp. They like how he tackles. He has really progressed nicely during this summer. He's looked good, and he finished strong last year as well, but he's done a nice job this summer. He's been pretty much working as the number 3 safety. I've seen him covering the tight ends in the slot. Watch for that if that occurs on Saturday, but he's done a nice job there. So there's another one there. Then it's Jeremy Reeves, Derek Forrest. You have Dominique Hampton. You have Tyler Owens. Tyler Owens has done a really nice job. And I'll be honest, like, I think Dominique Hampton, I think there's stuff that I like about his game. He's got the size, he's got the length, but Tyler Owens has stood out more at this point. So, I know Ben Standig tweeted the other day, I think from Miami, about how he was getting some reps in with the linebackers. Now, one thing I know with Dan Quinn and talking to him, over the however many months, they like to, when they're developing guys, when they did this in Dallas or whatever, they would take guys, and they've done it some here, take guys and, like, if you have receivers who you want, or tight ends that you want to run receiver routes, well, you put them with receivers sometimes, right? Or in the receivers drill to run those routes. So that's like, how do the receivers run it? That's what you want to teach the tight. So in Hampton's case, you want to play him in the box. I think that's where it is. But, I'll be curious to see what they do with him at this position. And then does he become a hybrid safety linebacker? Do they think he's more of a safety? Do they think maybe he could be a linebacker in the future? I don't know. But it is interesting with that. But I don't, I think to this point, I don't think that he has really jumped out in that way. So, again, then you have Jeremy Reeves, who's a special teams captain. And, I know they really like him because of that. So, but how many safeties can you keep? And, with like Tyler Owens, could you cut him and keep him? Probably. I think the same thing is true with Hampton. But, I think of those two, Owens has jumped out more, and he just has. And he does a nice job playing on special teams. So I think that's something just to watch. How does that unfold again, Saturday and then next week? Because I think that's going to be a big thing to decide for sure. KJ Henry, you heard Nikki and I talking about him on Thursday. He's a guy that I've liked how he played last week. Nikki said he was getting some run with the ones in the joint practice with Dorrance Armstrong or Cleveland Farrell not practicing. And so what does he do in this game? Because again, Quinn and this staff is ideally, again, most staffs would do this. I think they absolutely emphasize, like, you want to see this guy in this matchup. Not about game planning, it's not about winning the game. It's about gauging, getting a feel for your players. What can they do? Some guys you want to see against better competition. I would think that a guy like Bryson Tremaine, I'd want to see him against some better corners to see he's had a good camp. What does that mean for the future for him? Can he beat this? Can he be at a higher quality of corner than what he's typically been facing in practice? Not that he can't. It's just that's, if I'm a coach, now I want to see that. I think he's earned that opportunity to see that, right? I think same thing with KJ Henry. If what you're looking at is a rotational guy at best, but can he help you in that role? Because I do think he's progressed. I thought he progressed at a decent pace last year as well. So, he's another guy to keep your eye on. Ricky Stromberg along the offensive line, they try to make guard and center, because I think that line is really kind of now, there are some questions beyond the starting group for sure. And when I look at that, like, who's going to stand out? Because Chris Paul's been working a lot at tackle. We know that at guard, what he can do. Stromberg, he's been the third center. Do you keep him around in that role? Can he help? Do they think? And we saw what he could do at guard. And I always felt like he played with good awareness at that position. But I absolutely wonder the impact of that injury and what they see in practices and versus what they maybe thought of him coming out, because they obviously didn't see him here. So I think, that's the offensive line backup spot. Chris Paul at tackle. Does he get another? How does he look there after playing there for a little bit more of an extended time? And, guys like Julian Good-Jones, I think, is another one that I've told you, like, I think as an interior swingman, he can play guard, he can play center, another one to watch. And I think that's good. Oh, by the way, going back to safety, and I meant to bring up this guy, is Derek Forrest. So he's a guy that I liked before his injury, right? And it was hard not to. He plays physical. He was making plays, so, but he hasn't been talked about. It's coming off the injury. He had a hamstring injury that he came back from. But I think he's a guy that, it's funny because I felt like this group would like him because of how physical he plays. And, you wonder where he fits in that safety rotation. But I do, but I think that they're going to like the more they see of him, I think the more they're going to like of him. I just think he plays with the good mindset. I just, I just do. And so, but again, do you keep 5 or do you keep 6? It could be hard to do both because you may want to keep 6 corners. I think one benefit for this group is Quan Martin can cover in the slot. If and obviously Sammer still is, that's his area, but if something happens, you have a guy that can go down there. So and they also have like, they're working Butler up against the tight ends in the slot, right? And so I think that gives them a little bit of help there, but we'll see. And then the other one, of course, is Emmanuel Forbes. We know the struggles here, but there have also been, it's not been 100% bad for him by any means. So I think that would be an inaccurate way to portray it. And, I heard about a play that he made Thursday. I think we talked a little bit about him that and listen, he's got to play the deep ball better. He's got to show better awareness at the end of a play. He's got to, so there's little things he can clean up with his form. He's never going to be a bigger guy. They know that. They're never going to love his size because he doesn't have it. He's not going to get it. So you can't keep worrying about them. You got to say, okay, you got this guy. How can he help you? And can you clean up the mechanical issues to get him to contribute at a consistent level? But one of the ways he has to is by taking away the ball. So when you see him not finishing at the end of plays, that's not good. So see how he does with that. But he did have a play. There was a play I heard about from Thursday where there's a pitcher, he's a run coming around the end, tight end's coming around. He goes up and takes on the tight end, really played it physically. I think somebody told me he knocked the tight end back. So just a good job by him. So they like that. Like they're seeing that as well. But again, you've got to play better on the deep ball because if you don't, then you're going to have to look for some other guys. So, then we're going to see Riley Patterson, who had a good day on Thursday. How does he do? Because he hasn't done well to this point. Outside of Thursday, he has not been consistent. Too many off the upright, just too many misses. And the inconsistencies now, his career does not suggest that, but it's been a brief career. But even last year, he's 15 out of 17. So I still think his competition would be with another team, but he has a chance. Now you get 2 games. So what do you do with these 2 games? And I think that's going to be something to watch as well. Quarterback, again, beyond Daniels, Driscoll, and then Trace McSorley are going to play. McSorley is here because the other 2 are hurt. Mariota won't play. And then obviously Sam Hartman's out. They certainly seemed pleased with that quarterback room. So I've always gotten the sense that they like Hartman, they like Driscoll, they like Mariota, they obviously love Jayden Daniels. I don't know that McSorley is here to necessarily take anything away as much as he is to get you through. Now, who knows what happened? You go out and play a great game, but he knows, keep in mind, they know about Trace McSorley. Kingsbury coached him. They knew he was free, and they opted for this group. So we'll see, but he's got a chance. You never know. And I'll be curious to see let's see, he connects with Martavis Bryant. Hey, give us all something to discuss after the game. And, but so that's what I'm expecting there. Tight ends, the other one that I think is worth watching is Colson Yankoff. And we've talked about him, but watch him on special teams. See what he does there. He's been going with some of those first groups of special teams. Again, doesn't mean that he's going to make it, but it does mean he's a definite person of interest for that 53, because you're not putting him on there because you want to see, can he help you in this area? Because that's where a backup 4th tight end would have to be if he's active. He would have to be a special teams guy. Can he help you there? So, and Cole Turner has not distinguished himself in the couple of years in his time here. So he is by no means a lock as a 3rd, or excuse me, as a 4th tight end. So there's Yankoff has done a nice job for them throughout camp. And, I think he certainly is a guy to watch as well. I'm also curious to see how the defense handles. Like one of the things Miami does a ton is a lot of motion. Now they show a lot, but they're not necessarily tipping their hand for what they're going to do during the regular season. And because then it comes down to game planning, et cetera. But they do a lot of that. So it's a good test for the other side, right? If you're facing that, this is, there's a lot of window dressing and all that. How do you defend that? Well, it's a lot of it's testing your discipline. I think that's why I like guys like Samerskill. I think he's really good with that. He has really good instincts. So, but how do they handle all that? Again, the way Mike McDaniel is, like, he ties it to, he can show you everything he wants to. Now, the question is, how is he going to tie it together in a game? That's where he gets teams. So that's something that he is a mad genius. But that's something that's a good test for the defense. And I'm also curious to see that defensive line, see how the ends keep playing, and there's a lot to really focus on in this game. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Those are some things I'm looking for tonight. And I'll be back after the game to wrap up the Commanders' second preseason game against the Dolphins. As you can see, I'm still up here in Boston. I'm going to watch my son in the show tonight. But I will be watching that game and I'm going to break it down afterwards, and we'll see what happens, folks. It's going to be always a lot to talk about. This is why I like the games, that even if they rest some guys, they're going to rest guys for sure. But even if a lot of the guys aren't playing, even the Dolphins don't play, there's still so much to learn. So I'll talk to you after the game, and have a good one.